authentically peculiar, authentically peculiar, authentically peculiar.
Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Welcome to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, Season 3. I am so elated that we are going to be able to interview multiple guests as we are discussing the year of self. During this year, we're going to talk about financial wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, the journey to authenticity, overcoming trauma, and so much more. So stay tuned. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and even comment on Authentically Peculiar with Marcia on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, you can check it out on Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. Take good care. We'll see you. Welcome back to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. We're rounding the corner on season 3 with some really great episodes remaining. My hope is that you are continuing to glean information that is helpful in your life and that the topics that come to my mind through the universal connection are changing the lives of those that listen and apply some of the knowledge. We ended our session with me talking about relationships and the toxicity of having a mom that never allows their child or children to really explore their own thoughts, their own processes, and how that shows up in relationship and how things can become really chaotic, some borderline, if not completely abusive, and people questioning themselves. So I want to pick up from there as we talk about relationship in general. And I know in the last episode I discussed learning how to have a better relationship with yourself in order for you to show people how to treat you, in order for you to gain insight and honor yourself in the process. Today, I want to take time to discuss with you the 4 T's of communication in relationship with yourself and in relationship with others. You have to be able to set a tone. You have to be able to set the timing, the technique, and what the truth is. When you are operating in relationship from unhealed trauma, you're always going to see the negative of situations. Don't you want to heal that part? Don't you want to move on from that part? Again, there's nothing about your past that you can go back and change except the opportunity to learn from it. When you honor yourself with a state of forgiveness so that you can let the past things go, it gives you a better opportunity to dwell in places of healthy relationships, to be able to be expressive of your concerns, and to kind of move out of that people pleasing place. A lot of relationships find it difficulty when one or both people are people pleasers and they not have the opportunity to really tap into self pleasure. And I'm saying self pleasure not from a place of intimacy or sexual intention, but from a place of really changing your thoughts and your cognitive reconstructing so that you can be at a place where the rest of you catches up. So let's get into it. I don't have a movie reference for this one, but this is a life reference. In order to really develop healthy relationships, communication is going to be the baseline. You have to know what timing looks like. You have to understand that when you are utilizing timing in order for you to communicate, you need to be communicating that timing through emotional regulation. You need to have checked in with yourself to find out what your messaging is to the other person. Because when we get into these battles of just, I need to prove my point, I'm going to say what I need to say, I'm going to match energy, how effective is it really? How can you really get the messaging across to someone else about what you're feeling, what you're seeing, and what you may need if you're more busy trying to win from a place of matching energy. There's no winners in that situation because once one person escalates to match energy, the other person is going to escalate and the true message is lost. So everything has a timing mechanism. It's important that with timing that you stay on topic, stay in front of the present, right? A lot of people, because of their unhealed trauma, they often dip back into the past. They will go back in their subconscious to the very first time that you hurt me. Well, how is that helping you now? What is that doing? Because it's obvious if you're still with that person after that first hurtful point, then you intended to be with that person. So bringing up how they impacted you, what they did to cause distrust in you, how they hurt you, and all that kind of stuff, how is that helping now? The better question is, what part of you feels like if you forgive and move on that you're losing control? Because typically, when we go back into those spaces where others have hurt us and we want to hold on to that hurt and we want to manipulate the response of that hurt, when that occurs, guess what? That just means that we don't love ourselves enough to let it go. So to keep going backwards in the conversation when you have a right now situation that you need to deal with, is actually more hurtful. I often say that we respond behaviorally because of past situations, and we do. Your reasoning for going backwards to those situations is your choice not to heal. Here's your truth. If you had chosen to heal, then you wouldn't have a reason to go backwards. You would have a reason to bring up that old past pain. I remember when you said this about me. I remember when you said that about me. If you have healed, why are you still looking through the rearview mirror? Answer that question for yourself. Why am I still going backwards when I need to be present in what I need to address now? Another thing about understanding the timing is identifying when it's most efficient to have a productive conversation. It is not efficient if somebody has worked a really long day, they work a job that pulls a lot of things out of them physically and emotionally. You can't walk through the door with an immediate, we need to talk, because defenses are always going to rise. I usually have a set standard of boundary is I need an hour after I've transitioned between working in two spaces to just getting to a place of shutting down and quiet. I know that what you want to talk about may be important. I hear and see that. However, I need that hour because if you want me to pay full attention to you, I need that hour. I need to drop off those things that have impacted my day. I would encourage you to set some type of standard of expectation that after you've gone throughout your day, whether you work for somebody else or work for yourself, or even if you didn't have to work, you may have been juggling different things throughout the day. And I would encourage you to really tap into, what am I juggling? Am I even open to engage in a conversation? Or do I need to get some steam off my chest? If it's steam off the chest, you probably need to identify a better way to do that. Because when you are constantly regurgitating from a negative space onto a partner that may need some time to, decompress from the day, you're going to create a chaotic situation. Now, I know I'm going to hear some feedback that says, well, they should know how to be available for me. Well, can they know how to be available for themselves first and then for you? Wouldn't that be most efficient for them to be able to have a conversation in a place where they have the bandwidth to service your needs? If not, all you're going to do is create a chaotic situation. And that's not something that you want to do. That's not where you want to be. All right. There's always a time to express yourself. Timing it is going to be most productive when you've gone through your why question. Why do I need to have this discussion now? And what is my intent? And what would be my goal of the discussion? I know it sounds like it's a lot of steps, but when you operate in that place of questioning you and your intent, it calms you down so that your messaging is heard. I know a lot of people that like to talk just for the sake of talking. But if I'm talking with an intentional purpose of being heard, it changes my delivery. It changes how I move things. It changes how I put myself in position. For Marcia, I just want my message to be delivered, concise, and clear so that there's never a question about what my intent or my questions are. All right. So just consider this. What's my timing like? And do I have to have this conversation right this moment? Is my heart and my mind in a place where I can honestly engage in the conversation, even if the person that I'm having the conversation with, even if they deliver a different response, even if they are dismissive, how will I respond to that? Even if they make it seem like I'm getting on their nerves, how would I respond to that? How can I position myself when I timed the delivery to not take the responses personal? That causes for maturity and growth. I'm going to plug in the Four Agreements again. If you have not gotten that book, you need to get the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. I'm telling you, it will be a life changer. The second part of communication that I want to talk to you about is your tone. What's in my tone? Is my tone aggravated, annoyed, aggressive, passive, assertive? Is my tone point blank with no empathy? Is my tone battle ready? What is my actual tone for the message that I'm trying to deliver? And is my message delivery and the conciseness of that delivery more important than me having a tone? See, what I know is for Marcia, because I grew up in situations where there was some yelling and aggressive, verbiage about do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. I have always been the kind of person who says, I can talk to you about anything. Don't raise your voice at me. Don't stand up on me, over me, not on, because you can't stand on me, but to stand up over me, right? In a manner where I have to get defensive. So I put that out there very early in any relationship. I don't care if it's friendship, with my kids, with family members, whomever. I can talk about anything at any time. And it never has to get aggressive because even if I don't like what you're delivering, I'm still going to hear it. But if your tone is one filled with aggression, I know me well enough to know that I'll get defensive. Do you know yourself well enough to know what that will need to look like, whether it's delivering something with a tone or receiving a message with a tone? How do you process that for you? That's something that you may want to journal about. When someone speaks to me in an elevated tone, it makes me feel like what? Journal that question. Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself why it makes you feel like whatever you're feeling. Again, I know for me, when there are aggressive tones, I'll go ahead and remove myself from the situation because my defense mechanism is going to be up. When you think about tone, think about your body language. Am I presenting myself to the other person from a safe space? What does a safe space look like? Well, a safe space means that I am in an even body tone. My face isn't crunched up. My shoulders and my arms are in an aggressive and locked position. I'm free. I'm breathing easily. and I'm open to discussion. If the tonage does not create a safe space because your body language, you're going to throw somebody off and they're not going to want to have that conversation. The next part of tone is what is actually in my head when I'm trying to deliver this message. How do I want to actually communicate with someone? And what is the story in my head? For example, if the story in your head is someone took some personal information that you shared with them and they began sharing it with others, and now others are judging you and things of that nature, the story in your head is you tried to hurt me. You tried to maliciously use information in my vulnerability to hurt me. So you have to sit back and say, what do I need to understand when I deliver my disappointment and you taking my information and sharing it with others when I thought you were a safe space? When you can do that, you put the onus back on them to be able to say, I messed up. Now, if that person is in a position where they're defensive because they were wrong, you're not going to get the result that you're looking for. You're going to get someone that's going to either lie or not tell the full truth about what their actions were, not take on accountability, and that could piss you off, right? You have to ask yourself, how much of my personal control and my space am I going to give to me? Now, here are some tough questions to answer. When you are having a tone with someone and you share with them something personal with yourself, did you assess what their personality was? Meaning, did I really think that I could share something so personal and vulnerable with this person and expect them not to share? A lot of times we put people in situations that will help aid in our disappointment in them because we trust them with something that you knew you shouldn't have trusted them with. You knew that you shouldn't have had that conversation with. If you know, my grandmother used to always say, baby, a dog that'll carry a bone will bring one too. If a dog comes to you and talk about somebody else, they're going to carry what your information is to the other person. You have to decide, where am I going to set myself up in my tone and in my truth so that I can always remain safe in the conversation. The third area that I want you to consider is, what's my technique in my delivery? What am I saying to someone that I want them to actually hear and receive the message? Am I using the sandwich method? I love the sandwich method. If you don't know what the sandwich method is, it's this. The sandwich method is the top bun is like your complimentary style. Thank you for taking this time to have this conversation with me. Your middle section where all the goody stuff is, your meat and all the fixings and things like that, that's the brunt of the conversation. I wanted to take this moment to share with you, you did this and subsequently it hurt my feelings. I would have preferred you to do this, and this. And then you bring the bottom piece of the bun in, saying again, I hope that you were able to hear what I had to say, and I hope that we can engage in further conversation. Do you have any questions for me? I know that seems methodic, and it is, because you want to deliver a message that someone can hear. Now, anytime you start off with a conversation with a compliment, you're going to get somebody's ears perked up anyway. Oh, what you complimenting me for? What did I do? How did I do this? And all those kind of things, right? So they're going to accept that compliment. So their ears are open and in tune. But if you started off and your bread top is moldy, because or give them the butt of the bread, the ends of the bread, they're not going to be as open to listen to the message that you may have for them. So you have to decide for yourself, is this person worth me going to a couple of slices down in the bag of bread in order for my message to be delivered, or do I want to give them the butts? But then you have to ask yourself, if I give them the butts, how effective is that going to be for what my needs are to communicate? You also have to take into consideration the person that you're speaking to. If you're speaking to someone that's easily offended, you automatically know they're not going to hear what you're saying. If you feel like you still need to have that conversation with them, even though their ease of offense is available, you have to prepare yourself with, I'm probably not going to walk away with the outcome that I'm looking for. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. You're not going to walk away with the conversation that you're looking for. Okay? So when you begin to look at the situation, know your audience, know who you're talking to, know if you're talking to someone that's always in the victim role. If they're always in the victim role, 9 times out of 10, if you're addressing their behavior, they're not going to hear you. They're not going to want to hear you because it will have to push them out of that mechanism of being the victim. If you're talking to someone that you know doesn't take on accountability for their actions, are you really expecting them to take accountability? Or are you expecting to just put it out there? This is how I feel, and I'm going to walk away with no expectations that you're going to stand up and say, I apologize. For Marcia, I have a tendency to not have the expectation of someone taking on accountability, especially when I know that they may sit in the victim state. But if it's something bothersome in my spirit, some action, some behavior, some statement, or something of that nature, I'm going to address it, but I'm going to deliver it in a sandwich method and let them know what part was disappointing for me, and to let them know what my next steps or boundaries are, whether I'm going to continue engaging in the conversation or we've hit our roadblock, we've hit our end. Regardless of who it is, it could be family, friends, or whomever, regardless of who that is, then you have to decide what that's going to look like. Okay? Now, the last part is the truth. What is the truth in the messaging? Am I in a space where my narrative is the truth? Or am I delivering a narrative from my pain, from believed truth, when I haven't really addressed all of the situation? For example, a couple of weeks ago, there was a situation with one of my granddaughters, and I am very protective. I am a lioness when it comes to my kids and my grandchildren. And I found myself ready to react. I was ready to jump. I was ready to move in a space of protectiveness. And I had to sit back and ask myself, what's the truth here? When I found out what the truth was, I then said to my grandchild, never shy away from your truth. Even if it means that you may not have a friend, that you may not have the associations that you like, even if your internal dialogue is saying, just forget it, just, go on with it. You have to operate in what that truth is. If you don't operate in that truth, if you don't operate in the wholeness of the conversation, you're going to create chaos. Is that really what you want, or do you want to be heard? You want to make sure that you are identifying if there are any teachable moments. Teachable moments can come when you have boundaries in place. I spoke to a content creator, and we were talking about the importance of setting those boundaries and how her therapist said to her, if you have boundaries without consequences, it's just a preference. I'm going to say that again. If you have boundaries without consequences, it's just a preference. If you are saying, this is my boundary, this is my boundary, this is my boundary, and there are no consequential actions, You just gave them a preference to choose whether they were going to do it or not. You have to decide the importance of establishing boundaries with consequences. It's okay if you have to establish a boundary and you tell people, you know what, we're at the end of our road. Our journey has come to its end. We were seasonal, not lifetime. We got to stop putting people in position to think that we're running this journey for a lifetime when it is a seasonal situation. We have to give ourselves permission to establish these boundaries, set things up so that we can be our best self for ourselves and for others. Don't shortchange who you are because of failed communication. Communicate with the right timing, with the right tone, with the right technique, and always tell the truth. The four agreements, the first thing that Don Miguel Ruiz says is be impeccable with your word. Your word matters. My grandfather used to always say, if your word ain't no good, you ain't no good. If your word is not the essence of who you are, if you are not committed to your word, if your word can't be stand on or stood by, you ain't no good. Because the expectation is every time you open your mouth, you're going to lie. The expectation is every time you open your mouth, you're going to try to manipulate. The expectation is every time you open your mouth, you're going to try to abuse. Be impeccable with your word. Say what you mean what you say, own it, be accountable to it. Even if you're wrong, you should not have a problem saying, I was wrong for that, I apologize. That's called maturity. When you do that, you really break down the bonds of chaos and toxicity in relationship. When you give yourself permission to assess you and identify, how did I show up for myself? How did I show up in this situation for others? When you give yourself that level of permission, you'll find yourself walking in longer places of being able to be at peace and authenticity. Honor who you are at all times. Represent you the best that you can in everything that you do. Hold fast to your truth. Be impeccable with your word. Never take anything personally. Don't make any assumptions ever, because you don't know what's actually going on in someone else's life. You don't really know how life has impacted someone one way or the other. And always, always, always be your absolute best. I hope that this quick episode on communication will help bridge the gaps and cause anyone to have a conversation. In relationships, it's important to position yourself to say, I want to intentionally hear my mate. I want to intentionally hear my friend, my siblings, my parents, whomever the conversation is with. I want to be intentional in my hearing. When you do that, you set a better chance in positive communication and being able to really distribute love and understanding, empathy, and connection. So until next time, stay in tune with the 4 T's of communication so you can best represent who you are in all that you do. Remember, go out to marciablaine.com and subscribe. You're really missing out on those weekly blasts of Marcia Nuggets that can help apply some techniques in your life that better allows you to be who you are. The next thing that I encourage you to do is please go to YouTube, like, share, follow, subscribe, comment. That is how we keep in the algorithms on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram, anywhere that you follow me. You can always follow me at Authentically Peculiar, Marcia B, on Instagram, Marcia Blaine on Facebook, Peculiar One Counseling, everywhere. If you want to keep up with me in any upcoming events, marciablaine.com is going to be your place to go. If you would like to schedule a therapeutic appointment, please go to peculiarone.com, shoot me an email, I'll respond. I can tell you that I have a 2.5 to 3 month waiting list in order to get you in, but if you want to work with me, it definitely will be worth the wait. Okay? So until next time, I salute you. Have a great day, and thank you so much for supporting Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Take good care. Thank you for listening to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Follow us on your favorite streaming app.